Okay, let's try this again. 6.28 changelog, gonna go over the GitHub. And then later on after this, maybe I'll play test some rounds. But no more updating for today. It's 7:56 p.m. I've been updating since maybe 1 p.m. So let's go over 18 changed files, 349 additions, 114 deletions. And this time this video will have no background audio to get distracted from. But I may speak very fast because I'm out of breath, so excuse me for that. I just want to make this changelog commentaries for my own sanity because it's so much information to process. And the way I go about this is going by the feedback of these videos after listening to them whenever I have creative writing block. Okay, so airlock. I made a new function, get is point in marine base, to mimic get is point on infestation, get is point, or to let me start over. I made this get is point in marine base function similar to get PowerPoint for location and things like that. So this says if this I'm out of breath, excuse me. On initialize for airlock, if it's in the marine base, then I wrote something called initiate defense, and which that is, it starts a timed callback to repeat every 4 seconds. So every 4 seconds for the marine base airlock, it will search for a random entity live, so it can be a player or it can be a construct, such as a whip crag. So alien team in the airlock origin 24 distance covers basically the entire marine start. So every 4 seconds it checks for a random thing. It makes sure that it's in the same origin or the same location, same room name as the airlock, so that way if the player leaves, it won't get them, which makes a huge difference in the microseconds when you're in the battle. You want every single microscopic detail. Okay, so it's a table. So if it's matching the same origin of the airlock that it checks every 4 seconds for, then it'll enter it into the table, and then I call it the table lottery because it'll select a random unit from the table and return its origin, and it'll use that origin to spawn a cluster grenade. So every 4 seconds it'll spawn a cluster grenade if there's an alien inside the marine base. Why did I do this? Oh boy, you're gonna see later why I wrote base sentry base Mac, because I want the marine base not to worry about defending their base and be paranoid. I want Marines to know that their base is heavily guarded, and so that will allow them to push the payload. Because if you play Team Fortress Classic, or if you play Team Fortress Classic or play Team Fortress 2, they both have a safe spawn that deal with concepts outside of the spawn, where Natural Selection 2 and Natural Selection do not. So I want to bring the other game mechanics in here. Also, another thing regarding whips, I was thinking earlier, that's brilliant. The system that I have that spawns the whips in the player radius and moves them to the player radius, rather than in Siege, players build them and they just sit there stacking the entity count for no reason, having hydras and whips and cyst all spam all on the map. Granted, this Avoca's Heroic Dose mod has a bunch of cyst all over the map. The whips count are much better, and granted you have crags and shades in the hives. It's not as bad as Siege. You'll notice my tick rate is always manageable. So these 6 versus 6 player games on this mod are quite fun. Let's continue the changelog. Oh, this is for the power drainer ratio, so I increased the odds of the power drainer again. I increased the odds of it spawning again. Conductor. Today I added the base MAC rules, which basically state that the order has to be in the base of the Marines, which is defined as the location where the command station is. So get his point in Marine base. That's a requirement for the base MAC. So the base MAC stays in Marine base only. So yeah, I removed the I made it so this was on the left is 6.27, on the right 6.28. So on the left I deleted this from 6.27 and basically made it so base Macs do get orders now. So they'll repair and build, but I made it so the base Mac doesn't touch the player, it only constructs or builds. This is nothing here. I rewrote a little of the conductor's wiring, but I don't want to get into that headache right now. Let's go to functions, add payload time. I tried to make the payload time. I didn't spend too much time on this. I copied this from Siege, where I tried to get it. If the payload time goes above, if the payload time plus the current round length time goes above 25 minutes, then I try to make it so it won't go above 25 minutes. So the game length won't be too long. So try to get like 25 minutes. I mean, in Siege, the longest game was average 15 to 20. So 25 is really, really pushing it. This is a function get its point in Marine base, which looks for the chair and then analyzes the chair to the origin it's asking for and returns that they match, which will equal true or false. Oh, I changed the find free space location requirements to be in the same room. Basically just rewrote it to be error free, hopefully. I lowered the phase gate distance from 72 to 42. And also after this, not on the GitHub because I just wrote this, I made it so I tried to rewrite the Imaginator because I don't think it was placing structures in the correct distances. It was too inaccurate, so I made a few adjustments. Hopefully I'm going to play test it now after this video for the distance between structures to be hopefully more improved in multiple ways, as in distance between to mimic what a real commander would do. The GUI inside top bar is a little wonky. I noticed that I think the top bar is sometimes created before the conductor, resulting in the timer being in 0 until the round resets and then actually gets the conductor's payload time value. It's quite tricky, so I was trying to get a way to create the conductor first, then the top bar. But it's tricky because I'm not trying to overwrite files, so at the same time I was trying to hook away without using shine or using shine and not replacing any two things to hook. It's just complicated. So right now I'm just dealing with, sometimes there's a chance that the payload time shows 59 minutes rather than 10. At that point I have to reset the round and where it will fix. I also experimented with having the TBD for the alien part of the timer show as whips count, but it was never accurate. The console would print whips are 50 or whips are 48, but the HUD would display whips are 12, whips are 20, and it would lower when I would get out of range of whips, and it would raise when I would get in range of whips. So I'm learning how the engine works just by observing, writing, and testing, I guess you could say. I modified my Avoca arc to show the damage indicator, so that will show the damage values that it outputs on crags and whips and structures that it hits for the parent. And I added find new parent every time it deploys, so it'll be the nearest player. So the nearest player by that arc, when it deploys, if the arc, it'll show that damage indicator for the player, also for the hive payload because it shows arc and not Avoca arc. But anyway, it will show the damage output, and it'll give the player credits and score. And there's something else regarding arcs and Avoca arcs, or main high payload arcs. I'm not sure of. I forgot offhand. It may be down on the changelog more. This is next to base century. This is new. Oh, I forgot to delete this part. Base century is new. It's a overpowered base century in Marine base. You know, remember Team Fortress Classic? You enter the enemy base, you got a sentry that kills you instantly. Well, I got this. So it's I call it a base sentry. It's 4 times the health and armor of a default sentry. It's powered without needing power. It's inaccurate, but it has a chance to be wildly accurate. So 1 to 400, where the default arc where the Avoca sentry is default 1 out of 100. Basically, it's just increased chance slightly to have better accuracy for this base sentry. And on top of that, I quadrupled the damage, so it's overpowered. Very overpowered. And 180% model size. I'm quite confident that this could work because it's a system I have where I know it may sound crazy, like what, 4 times health, 4 times damage, but if you think about it, like if you're a skulk and you attack Marine base during the payload, then you have a chance of the whip spawning in there as well through the King's Fist, and eggs as well. And even though the Marines have the cluster grenade spawning every 4 seconds on a random airlock entity in the Marine base, it's like a mass chaos that's organized. Just all I can say is play test it. For me, it's fun. Let me continue. I doubled the max whips count to 50, and I tried to fix where it only spawns what I want it to spawn, because here yesterday, without the clamp, it spawned. At one point I was up to 147 whips. So maybe I can work my way there. But for now we're going to try 50. And keep in mind I'm not spawning shifts or shades purposefully, because I have the King's Fist replicating a shift. King's Fist replicating a shift by energizing players. That way I could keep the entity count lower and have the shifts at the hives and the shades at the hives only. And that way I could have an insane amount of whips. And trust me, the formula I have now, the whips are always in your face as a Marine. So it's just how I use them. It was way better than Commanders, in my opinion. Okay, so I adjusted the game start. So you get 4 base sentries rather than sentry Avoca. So way buffed up, overpowered sentries in Marine base at the start. And then at the start I made it so the power point in the hive starting room is off by default. It's kind of funny because I made it start on, then I made it here kill it. But I know I'm purposely doing that so I can trigger it to spawn cysts in the room. And then down later on this changelog, I'll say it now rather than wait till I get to it, is I made it so when the PowerPoint dies, it'll instantly kill the extractor in the room, so that way you don't have to kill the extractor after you kill the PowerPoint. You just have to kill the PowerPoint. And the light switch for the airlock, I improved to say, instead of last marine left, say room is empty. So that way, when the room is empty, hopefully the airlock will delete. Or, this is a new thing I wrote, or when the power is down. It's just I'm trying to improve my accuracy for where airlocks are at. Because I only want airlocks in a room that has a marine with power in it. Because that'll give Marines the power decal overlay. That'll enable the Imaginator to spawn structures in the room. Everything's all linked together. The base Mac, yeah, this is just the base Mac. I made it so it has to be in the room. Get is point in Marine base for the odor requirement for the base Mac. Big Mac, I tried to fix it, the health value, because for some reason this way I had it, it's like one hit kill, so it wasn't doing the health right. So adjust max health, adjust the current health to this health. It's complicated. Move speed, I adjusted it, I nerfed it some more so it can't weld after being damaged for 4 seconds compared to default 1, because it's a giant overpowered Big Mac that Marines only get 1 of. The main room arc, I tried to, it's the same thing, find new parent. Then it's, and try to improve where I don't like how, for some reason, the main room arcs kill cysts and eggs and players. So that's what I tried to fix with this. So find new parent. Modifications next. Try to improve the payload time, but it's kind of wonky. The whips, I added a requirement for whips to not fire at the God mode hive payload, so that way it could fire at other things instead. Ignore that. PowerPoint on kill. This is what I was talking about earlier. When the PowerPoint dies, it kills the extractor. This was a cheap fix. I'm not sure. I have to playtest if it works. Just to remove the main room arc from damaging eggs, cysts, and players, because it should only damage whips and crags and structures. But so I don't know why it's damaging things it shouldn't. So this is what I try to fix. I have to playtest if it works. Ignore that. Ignore this. And that's about it. So I'm going to playtest 6.28. No more updates for tonight. Thanks for watching.